Welcome everyone to Sunday service here at Roots Revival Interfaith. I am Pastor Ivy Rivera. We also have with us Reverend Danny Johnson, our numerologist. How are you, Danny?
I'm wonderful. I'm grateful to be here. Excited for our service today.
Me too. And then we have Christina Del Rey, our astrologer. Reverend Christina, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Very good. And then we have Reverend Paul Casey, Healing Arts. How are you, Paulie?
I'm great, thanks.
Okay, so we do have a little tech issue up here that we're going to correct very quickly. All right. Now, our church is different, okay? We actually encourage you guys to interact. So if you have questions, if you have comments, we want to see your posts. Paul will be running the feed throughout the Sunday service here, and we will have time later for prayers and healing. So if you have concerns that you would like for us to focus on, we are going to, about halfway through the service today, take a brief pause and you'll have time to post those, okay? So today we are talking about excellence in our times, truths revealed. But before we get into today's topic, I do want to talk about our mission statement. You know, how are we a different group than the traditional groups that you may have joined together with? So our mission statement is to normalize intuition. Our vision is to normalize intuition through the reconnection of our authentic roots, spirit, and intuitive intelligence to evolve ourselves and to heal others. Our values. We are following universal order. We understand that there are three truths. Intuitive intelligence, which is psychic, mediumistic, empathic abilities. Evolutionary astrology and numerology. Through the study and application, knowledge of these three truths, we are given individual understanding and awareness to develop our character, integrity, and self-accountability. Every individual's path life contract is their own, with an accumulation of past life and future destinies. Free will dictates where and how far we will go. We strive to keep individuals at their highest vibrations in their day-to-day lives, to become their best possible selves. Energy does not die, it only transforms, and the continuation of life after death shows the evolution of spirit through this process. So these are the things that we focus on here at our Sunday services. Okay. Before we get into excellence in our times, truths revealed, that's going to be our discussion today. I do want to open with a prayer. So if you guys want to get comfortable, close your eyes. I want you to open up. Holy Spirit, we thank you for being here with us today and for working within each one of us every single day of our lives. Please bless those that are here with us today and help those watching later on to be led to tonight's service at just the right time, so that they may receive the message with open minds and hearts to be strengthened on their journeys to fulfill their true paths in life and to be a beacon of light and strength for others. Please send those who have lost their way to us. Amen.
Amen.
So, excellence in our times. It's getting trickier and trickier every day. For those of you tuning in that are from the States, for those of you from outside America, we've all witnessed a lot this week in regards to integrity, character, accountability, a willingness or lack thereof to take responsibility for one's actions, for what one stands for, ultimately. And we saw that come to a head this week at our Capitol in DC. So when we look at instances like this, we should be taking them as an opportunity, a sign that it isn't about them. It isn't about the other. It is an opportunity for each one of us individually to reflect back inward on who we are. What choices do we make? What do we stand for? And what do we plan to do in the future? And I'm hoping that we are all taking more time to examine ourselves because of the things that are happening. And the reality of life is that every day provides us with those learning opportunities. The world is a classroom. The world is also, in my opinion, a battleground. And when we live outside of that reality, we are susceptible to being manipulated by lower, negative, dark energies that don't ever take our free will away, but can really cloud our judgment. And yet again, we see so many people who are being revealed as feeding that negativity and that darkness. So one of the things that I think we can concentrate on in our day-to-day lives is the simple question in every circumstance where we say to ourselves, I'm going to ask whether or not I am showing integrity in this moment. What do you do when no one's watching you? What do you do behind closed doors? What do you do when there's no payout for your right choice? Do you still choose right? Or do you tend to lean toward whatever's easy, whatever the masses are doing? Are you actively thinking for yourself on a regular basis? Or are you just going with the flow of who's around you? There is a lot of work that goes into character development, integrity, and it requires that you stop every day and you say, I am going to ask myself if I am doing the right thing. If my choice in words or actions, if this is what's best for the whole, for the community, or if it's just what's best for me, if it's just what's easy. Okay. And more importantly, if you stop and you find that you're not sure if you're about to do the right thing, or you just don't know what to do, you need to start asking. Who are you asking? Well, if you believe in a higher power, you're asking the higher power. If you believe, and I hope you do, that the Holy Spirit lives in you and speaks to you through your conscience, through that still small voice, throughout the day, all the time. It's not shouting, it's not yelling, it's not shaking you up, it's not in your face. The world is in your face. The wrong answers are in your face. That still small voice that's always in there. How often do you really stop and say, I'm not really sure what the right answer is. I'm going to tap in with the still small voice, the spirit inside me. Some people would say, well, that's tapping into your higher mind. Awesome. Then do that. Maybe you need to call in your guides, your protector guide, okay, your joy guide. Maybe you need to check your numerology, your astrology. Call in your ancestors. Sit quietly for 10 minutes with your phone off, your cup of coffee, and just ask to be shown what the right thing is. Not for you, not just for you, for everyone. And that's the beautiful thing. Because when you choose to do what's right for everyone, you benefit. When you choose to do what's right for you, it is short-lived, and there's always negative karmic payout for that, especially if it's taking a toll tremendously on others. So what I'm encouraging everybody to do today is to stop more frequently, to stop seeing yourself as just a freight train going full steam ahead in life because that's what you're used to. That's what everybody else does. That's what society does. That's what your emotions are telling you to do. That's what your logic is telling you to do. That's what your dog-eat-dog mentality is telling you to do. More for me, more for me, more for me. What do I need to do for me? How can I appease? We need to be more mindful in the choices that we're making. And if we would have seen more of our supposed leaders be mindful, not just over the course of the last 4 years, but well before that, if we would have seen that mindfulness brought to the table, we would not be in the predicament that we are in right now. And anyone who tries to shrug that off is just showing that they'll be in the next round of failures. So it's time. I hope that we are all looking at what's happening right now and applying it to our life lessons. Okay, so if you guys want to start chiming in.
I like that you use the word excellence there. And interestingly, so in Greek, there's a word arete, which in ancient Greek, like Homeric Greek, meant excellence. And that was like excellence of battle. But then by the time it came to Socrates, it had turned into mean virtue. So you were judged by your virtue, your excellence in that. And I feel that, the way that a word can change, over time, it's like shows how progress can be made just as a whole, right? So I think part of that too is, making the decision too. So last week I'd spoken on a perspective change. People changing their perspective over the summer when they see like racial injustice and everything here and everyone else's hardships and actual hardship and, understanding that. And so the perspective changes, but what goes from there? I mean, you can change your mind and see things differently, but if you don't do anything differently, what happens? What's the point of it? So, then your excellence, like your ability to do things, you have to really shift it into your virtue and really rely on your virtues to change, to make you do things. And I think that right now is a really excellent time for a lot of people whose perspectives have changed to really see that, all these other people that they were relying on to have their perspectives changed too, really aren't. There's this puerile, belief here that there's no accountability and everyone can do whatever they want at any time. And it's like, no, you have to, these people are showing themselves and you have to really step up at this point and say, okay, if they're not going to do it, I can't just rely on this anymore. I have to do it myself. And so you used battlefield too, and I think that's great because Achilles was described for his excellence, his arete. So it's like you have to use both aspects of this. You have to fight, but you have to use virtue, and it's like this whole word, like the whole lifespan of this word, excellence in Greek anyway, is really being encompassed and encapsulated with what's going on now. And like take both sides. You have to act, but you have to be virtuous and, act on your virtues. Don't act on your emotions, like don't just fight because you're mad, fight for what's right, and I think it's a perfect time right now where people are starting to see this, that everyone else isn't holding up their end,
Well said.
Go ahead, Danny.
Oh, you go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, I think that we're seeing a lot of toxic masculinity, and it doesn't have to do with male or female. It's just, everybody has masculine and feminine in them. But when we go towards the higher masculine, then we we use anger as fuel for change. And we do that in a virtuous way, whereas, with the toxic masculinity, you're just acting out of anger and not thinking. So the mindfulness piece is key And we also have, a lot of really strong astrology this week that might trigger people. So, we have we have a new moon conjunct Pluto at the same degree that January 2020, everything that started the whole year. And, it's going to bring up wounds, and it's going to bring up those, those lessons from the year. And, anger is there so you can change things, but it's the free will is how you change it. And you have to ask yourself, am I at my highest vibration? How can I make my anger more useful? And, how can I channel it higher? And it's not easy to do because, in the moment you're so emotional. But, Pluto really exposes truth. And, nobody could really deny the injustice, when we saw it this week. So, we couldn't no longer deny that there's a difference. Not everybody's treated equally. We could not deny that no longer. So that's Pluto, with like exposing the truth. So now we have to figure out how we're going to change it.
And this week, when thinking about and being prayerful and preparing for our service today, I asked Spirit, how does numerology, how do the numbers relate to what has happened? And I was shown to look at the numeric energy that that surrounded us, that was with us the day before, the day of, and the day after the attack on the Capitol building. So in doing that, this was Tuesday, January 5th. The numeric energy that was with us was 11, a master number. In numerology, master numbers are the most potent, most concentrated numbers because they carry so much spiritual and karmic weight with them. And 11 is probably the most spiritually charged number in all of numerology. There are 7, there are a few others, but 11 is really key and potent. And number 11 represents, again, being highly intuitive, intuition being very, very high, and that ability and need to channel both higher and lower energy. So I asked Spirit, how did the numeric energy, and I asked from a healing perspective, because we saw what happened. Collectively, we saw what happened. And I asked from a healing perspective, what do these numbers mean the day before, the day of, and the day after? And Spirit said that for every person that showed up to the Capitol, there were a lot that chose not to. There were a lot of people who had planned to, who heard about, who were thinking about, but the day before, when that number 11, master number energy was present with us, there were folks who literally turned on their heels, folks who were on their way who said, you know what, I'm just not going to do this. They knew. So this is, it feels like that was Spirit's way of showing us that even when we might make decisions that could potentially cause harm, we always have the free will decision to turn around and not do it. We have all up until the last minute.
Can I jump in there, Danny? Because it's so interesting because so that day, Mars was at the 29th degree of Aries. Now that's an 11, right? 29?
Mm-hmm.
So, and in astrology, the 29th degree is considered a crisis degree. And things tend to kind of, blow up a bit when the planet is at that degree. And Mars had been in Aries for so long that I think like maybe we kind of underestimated a little bit about the crisis that was going to occur once, because when Mars is usually in a sign for like a month and a half, and it was in this sign for 6 months, and it's its home sign, which is very, very strong. So our fight and the anger and all this stuff was, so when it got to that degree, it's almost like it just, exploded. So I think that that's interesting that you said 11, but it was the 29th degree was really like what set it off. So that's so interesting.
Well, and I just want to say this too, for those of you who are tuning in and maybe you don't know a ton about numerology or astrology, when we talk about Aries, we're talking about that fighting energy. When we talk about Mars, we're talking about the planet of war. So, and when we're talking about 11, at least in my symbol base, that is a huge opportunity. So all of you have heard, whether you're familiar or not, 1111, make a wish, or, oh my gosh, all these ones are following me around. That does not come without a tremendous amount of karma and hard work. You don't get those payouts until something has come to a head and you have decided whether or not you're going to put in the effort and do the right thing to get that positive, huge karmic payout. But also with 11, I think the way Reverend Danny is referring to it, it's also that master number that is pretty infamous, right, for kind of battling itself. Struggling to achieve and go high, not low.
Yeah. Definitely that battle between the higher and lower polarities for sure. And that's so wild that the 29 degrees absolutely adding up to 11. And when you get to a master number, 11, 22, 33, you don't reduce them. So that's incredible.
And it shows the higher power involved, you know, that change must happen, I think.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, I can't say it any better. I mean, that's why we do this. You know, that's why we come together here to talk about the intuitive intelligence, listening to your gut intuition, the numerology behind this, the astrology behind this. It's all in play. All the signs are already there. You know, things are destiny charted, but that does not remove free will. What we are going to collectively do, what each individual is going to do, it's based on one's own decisions. And we need to pay more attention to these bigger signs, to essentially what's already at play, and be wise about our choices and our energy and own it. So, you know, one of the things that I think is really important to pay attention to is the deterioration level of the individual when you've decided to shun all of this wisdom. If you have decided to go against your better judgment, your gut instinct, that still small voice, and you are doing whatever in a sort of reactionary or animalistic way you want to do based on your ego, your emotions, or even what may appear to you to be your logic, okay, we are going to see some pretty heavy karmic payout for that immediately after, and then it progressively just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what are some of the signs or symptoms that you have been coming from a place of ego and that you are lacking some integrity? You have abandoned your moral compass, okay, your intuitive compass. One of the common things to see early on is anger, aggression, agitation. Okay, if you all of a sudden start to feel that everything is making you mad and everyone is an irritant to you, it's possible you're not analyzing where you stand enough, because eventually everything will rub you the wrong way, because essentially you're going against the grain. You're not with the flow of the universe. Now, one of the other things we notice early on is isolation. You tend to just want to pull away. You're losing friends, you're losing family, you know, your opinions, your decisions are causing for you to find yourself alone, but you still don't want to own that. You're just blaming everybody else. So now you're isolated. And during that time of isolation, you're going to be limited on who you can get involved with. So that's a major, I would say, warning. That isolation tends to lead to a lot of other problems, including mental illness. And we're not here to prescribe or diagnose, But when you see an accumulation of these three things, really ending in almost like an eruption of mental illness and deterioration, you are in a trouble zone, and you have got to back up and start being more introspective. Find that still small voice again. Correct what it is that you're doing wrong, and don't be afraid to start over.
We connecting excellence and what you just described about having the ability to be able to find the good in what is happening, and operating with integrity. It feels like Spirit is relating what we're talking about today to alchemy from last week. And last week when you spoke about alchemy, ironically, when the day that the Capitol building was attacked, the numeric energy in the universe that was given to us was 3, which is creativity, joy, artistic expression. And I asked Spirit, how did that relate to something that was where so much pain was involved? And Spirit said, alchemy, transforming pain into joy. There were so many people who had found, literally, who had uplifted folks by taking, again, from the healing perspective, had taken the pain that people were going through and finding the humor in it to be able to help folks to feel uplifted. There were also folks, in terms of the like artistic expression, the healing arts. There were so many impromptu healing sessions where folks said, you know what, in an hour, meet us on Zoom. We're going to hold space together. There was this resistance to allowing for the pain to take us over. We saw what it was. This is a replication of a lot of systemic cycles. But in that moment, there was a determination that we were not going to allow that pain that we experienced to completely take us over. There was a refusal. And then the following day, the day after, the numeric energy with us was number 4. What you were just describing: hard work, discipline, determination, being willing to do the hard work the long way, not accepting the shortcut, and asking Spirit, okay, how does this relate to what we've experienced and what we've seen? And it was 2 things that Spirit said: commitment to care, where enough is enough. I am taking deliberate time to take care of myself today and take care of those around me, and not allow like the system of like capitalism, like how much very often it's like how much we produce is connected to our value. And it felt like the day after, it was clear, no, we're going to take time for ourselves unapologetically. The other piece to it was a commitment to doing the hard work. Undoing systems it's the long game. It is literally the long game. There are a lot of things that we might want to see in this lifetime that we may not even see ourselves, but we're working toward our next generation being able to take the baton. So there is finding like the joy and the resistance and the longevity in what it is that we're facing.
Such important work. Christina, what were you going to say? And Paula, you wanted to say something?
I love that. It's so Aquarian age, like, the fact that the community was coming together to not let it, get them so down, but yet like fuel it for, focused action rather than, just letting it get you down and defeat you. So that I love that. That's so very Aquarian age. We have 3 really big aspects that are going to play into social unrest this year. So there will be a lot of social unrest, and I think that there's going to be a need for more of that to hold space. But one thing that, like Ivy's talking about, integrity, and that it's okay to start over. Maybe even making like a list of things that you stand for or things that you don't stand for. But one thing that like we really need to learn is that we get our freedom through more responsibility, not less. So there's kind of like a struggle that's going to happen. That's going to be like, well, I just want to be free. I just want to do what I want to do. And then there's going to be like, well, yes, but only if you take responsibility and do things the right way, the honorable way, you know, with a virtuous way. And then through that, you're going to be able to have your freedom. You're going to be able to have that, but you can't get one without the other. So very interesting.
I think a lot of what came out. Oh, sorry. Did you?
No, I was just going to say, it's what our parents tell us, right? It's what the adults always said, is that you're going to have to work for it. It's basically like saying, kid, you got to read the instructions. You can't, you know, my son got a credit card for the first time the other day, and he tore it out of the envelope, and, you know, we're looking at an almost 18-year-old here, and tore the sticker off it where it said, to activate this credit card. And he tore that off, and he goes, what junk? And he threw it, and he goes, you know, I hate when people put stickers on these cards. They are harder to run through the system. And I said, okay, whatever, you know. And then he went to go use it a couple days later and couldn't figure out why. And we were standing in Barnes & Noble saying, what the heck went wrong? This is a brand new card. And I said, you know, we have to do the work and get back to the basics. And because it's been so supported for so long, we're so surrounded by people who don't. We thought we were going to get away with the shortcut, and we're not, you know. What were you saying?
Well, much like what happened this week, you know, I think it's forcing people who have been kind of living externally and, you know, not looking inward to really see like a big mishap of people just looking outward, you know, and living externally and then saying like, whoa, all right, slow down, you know, like I'm gonna figure this out. I can't just go around blaming people because they look absolutely ridiculous. So I think that, you know, unfortunately these things happen, but it's like Danny said, that the healing that comes out of it is someone's going to see that, you know, I would put a large number of people saw that and are starting to pull inward, like when Danny said, people not getting on the bus to go do that, or however it was, or even just witnessing it, even if that wasn't part of your system. But to see it and to say, okay, well, they're just blame. You know, maybe there's got to be something to this, and I should really look at what's making these causes and what's making me do what I do. So there is some healing, I guess, to come out of it, but it's that whole external looking thing, yeah. And like the way you said it, the people got to start looking inward and get to the root of it.
I love how you said that. I love how you said we have to stop looking out to our circumstances, to others. What's going on around us? You know, what's the buzz? What's the buzz? It's enough. You know, it's enough. We have to pay attention to the inner moral compass and to the spirit that speaks inside us all the time. And we have to remember that the truth, the real direction, your gut instinct, inner God, all of that is quiet. It is always there. It is always consistent. You can count on it, but it is not going to fight. It is not going to try to overrule all the noise outside of you. It is your responsibility. It is your job to quiet yourself, to tune all that out, and to tap into that still small voice. That's where the truth always lies. It's not that complicated. It just requires some discipline, and we've gotten very, very far away from it. So I do want to invite you guys. We're going to start posting now any prayer requests that you have for yourself, for your community, you know, for anyone in your circle, any specific healings that you may need. Go ahead and start posting those now. We're going to have Paul collect them. And in a minute, we're going to, get to our final prayer and healing session. I also want to invite you guys to, if you want to donate to the church, to Roots Revival, you can do that here on YouTube. Is there a button for that?
Yep, it's at the bottom of the chat.
Okay, very good. And we do very much appreciate that. Now, I also want to encourage you guys, if you have any questions or comments on what we're speaking on, like I said earlier, we do invite that type of engagement here at our Sunday services. So, Paul, do we have anything coming in that fits?
Yeah, I liked Helen Renee, 212 on TikTok had said, choice, not chance, determines our destiny.
So true.
Yeah, a lot like Mary's, echoing you. No shortcuts in life, and everyone is really backing our thoughts here today, and really into this. Danny's getting some comments on her messages as well. So people are ready for change, and glad to have found this tonight.
Okay, beautiful. Again, keep posting your prayer requests and your healing requests. Christina, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I tell the kids at school, because I'm a teacher as well, and I always tell them, you can't help how you feel. You can only help the actions on what you feel. And if it's very hard for teenagers to regulate their feelings and and act correctly, and they're still teenagers, so they're still learning. But when you get to be an adult, you have to sort of step outside of yourself and look at yourself, and look at your actions. And, and I think it was Deepak Chopra or somebody who said, actually step out of your body and look. Do you like what you see? Do you like the actions that are happening? And if you don't, if the answer is no, then you need to reevaluate that. But have an objective look at yourself, and do not let your emotions control you.
Absolutely. I will say this too, after many years of working with the public in psychic mediumship and healing work, I have found repeatedly that it isn't just me, it's everybody. It is rare to find that your emotions match your intuition. And that just blows people's minds when I say things like that. Well, what do you mean? We were told to always go by our feelings. You've got to pay attention to your feeling. That was a big thing in the 60s and the 70s. And that was maybe a lovely time for that. Okay, people were exploring more. I think there's a place for feelings, of course. If you feel fear, maybe there is danger. You do need to run away or be mindful of that. If you feel that something, is making you emotionally uncomfortable, maybe you need to pay attention to who you're dealing with. There is a place for feelings, but they should not always rule your judgment. And it is, again, the rare occasion when your gut instinct, what your intuition is telling you to do, what the right thing is to do, matches that feeling, because it is typically the polar opposite. Meaning when you step out and you start doing what you're supposed to do, it's a lot of hard work, so you're not going to feel like it. It could create a lot of discomfort. Well, humans hate being uncomfortable. It could require that you set boundaries or that you cleanse. You may have to get rid of things that you've gotten accustomed to, even people, relationships that you've grown accustomed to. And that is the ultimate in discomfort. That doesn't make it wrong. So we cannot just decide that if we don't, if we feel a certain way or we don't feel a certain way, that that's the right answer. We have to be careful.
And we have to explore, why do we feel that way? We have to kind of take it apart and dissect it too.
Yeah.
I love what you all are saying, especially about the concept of work, because sometimes, especially for folks who are creative, so many of us are creative in different ways. Sometimes we might feel compelled to wait for inspiration to hit us, wait for the creative streak to hit us to get started with the work, and then us start. But in fact, it is even in those moments when we are feeling like a dry pumpkin and it's like, I have no juice, you still get started, you still begin the process, and then inspiration comes later as you begin the process of working. So really,
I love that. And I did a almost like a speech one time on that at a poetry, like a freestyle, open mic poetry I was asked to come speak at. And it didn't go over so well, but what I was trying to say to them, and they looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears, but was exactly that. Don't wait to feel it. Show up and say, I am here to channel. I am here to turn on, get activated. And I think that when we do that, we're being proactive we open up literally, right? Our channeling, our crown chakra, our abilities to allow in. It's like we're inviting the inspiration, and you never know when that's just going to show up. Dried pumpkin as you may be, to just take over you. You don't know what you might compose or paint, or how you can heal others, how you can heal yourself. There's a story waiting to be told. And if we never show up, you know, to kind of hear it, to receive it, we can't retell it. We can't wait to feel it. And sometimes it doesn't even match our logic. You know, we can also become so overly logical that it's like, well, for me to step out and do this other thing, even if I feel it in my gut, even if I know it's the right thing to do, even if I can feel that this is the way I must go, this is the path, it doesn't match logically what I've been doing, what I'm used to doing, what I've been investing, what other people say about it. So you don't leave. You don't leave your safety zone. You're never going to get there unless you can leave behind the logical thinking, the emotional element, and do what your intuition is telling you to do.
That has definitely been the struggle for me.
That's the hardest one.
Just trusting, you know, it's just like, well, if this doesn't work out, then there must be another door, you know.
That's right.
And that's hard to do. I find myself many times a day saying, just, you know what I mean? Like, give it to the higher power and trust.
That's right. That's stepping out in blind faith. You're not expected to do the whole thing. You're expected to take one step forward in the right direction in blind faith. Watch and see what happens after that. It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Christina, did you have something to say?
No, just thankful to be here and be a part of this.
All right, awesome. I was just going to say, I just love seeing you guys every Sunday. This is just such a great time to be able to get together and focus on what we're really passionate about. You know, sometimes we just need to keep it simple and just do this. So love having you. All right. Reverend Danny, Reverend Christina, Reverend Paul, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Spirit. We'll see everybody next week.